We begin the news in Nigeria, where the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that's the EFCC, has declared Yahaya Bello wanted for an alleged financial crime to the tune of 80.2 billion naira. Nigeria's anti-corruption agencies called on those with vital information about the former Kogi State governor's whereabouts to reach the commission or the police. The EFCC said former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello is wanted by them for offences relating to economic and financial crimes to the tune of 80.2 billion naira. Now, to discuss this further, I am being joined by a legal practitioner, Ola Daniel. Hello, Ola. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so now that this issue has been escalated, what are your thoughts on the EFCC declaring Yahaya Bello wanted? And why did he not surrender to prevent this public humiliation?
Well, unfortunately, I have to go this route that it is sad that this is happening. And it's because we have built over time, we have built power around ourselves, making ourselves very strong, formidable person that we feel that we're above the law, particularly people that have held office in the past, governor, president, minister, whatnot, senator. So to them, they feel that they are above the law because they enjoy the peripheral and whatnot. Unfortunately, the law is clear, and there is nobody. The only one that the law has given immunity, and the immunity only covers for the period of time they are holding the office. And that is Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Governor, Deputy Governor. And this immunity only covers for the period of time they are in office, not before or after office. So when they come out from office, they still feel so much empowered. And that is the reason why most times they really want somebody to succeed them, somebody of their own choice to succeed them. And that is why we see things like this happening. If you've been invited for an alleged crime or offense, I think it is common sense, and it is as simple as anything to oblige and honor the invite. Then, if it's been alleged that you commit a particular crime, then you have every right to go and defend yourself, to say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I never did what you allege that I did.
So you're saying him evading arrest actually makes him look guilty?
Well, you cannot say that because, we can't say for sure that evading arrest makes someone guilty, because they are always afraid, of going into those nets, because to them, some of them may think that someone is winch hunting them. And when they raise this winch hunting thing, I ask, did you do it? Was there anything like that in your cupboard? If there is none, so who is winch hunting you? Who is after you? So if he's evading, and I think he may be giving EFCC more force to go further, to do everything to get him arrested, because you're telling them, but if you know that you have not done anything wrong, there's no reason, I see no reason why you cannot submit yourself to EFCC. EFCC is just doing its own job. EFCC cannot even decide what happens to you. It is the court that would decide. It is the duty of the court to adjudge a case. So EFCC can go to say, we allege that this happened. And if you can prove your case to say, no, I don't know what you're talking about, it never happened, then the court is there to judge, to either free you or say, oh, you are culpable. So EFCC is only doing its job as an agency. And because we can't all fold our hands and sit, if there's, for instance, there's an allegation, there's a petition, of course, they will investigate. EFCC will come.
Yes. Ola, now, prior to him being declared wanted, we're actually aware that his legal counsel declined to accept legal documents on his behalf. Now, in your professional opinion, what ethical considerations comes to play, in light of this?
You see, when there is a service on an individual and you find out the person is invading such services, because service is personal, but when you find out that the person is evading services, I think it's appropriate for the other party, which is the EFCC, to then go back to court and say, look, court, we can't serve this person. Then they need to also go back to file an expectation, either by substituted service, either to serve on the last abode or to serve on, if the counsel, if it's allowed to serve on the counsel, if the prayer is granted, why not? If the prayer is granted to serve on his counsel, fine. But if it's not, the party can ask for substituted service. But in a case where nothing like that was done and this person is evading service, of course, what they will have to do is to go back to court to ask again for warrant of arrest, so that it means that anywhere he is, they can have access to the place, to get him arrested.
All right, now the EFCC had actually threatened to escalate the matter further by involving military personnel to arrest him. Now, under what circumstances do you think the military should be involved, especially in civilian law enforcement operations? When does the pursuit of justice justify the use of force by law enforcement agencies?
You see, these are the errors some of these agencies make, and that messes up their cases when they get to court. And the first thing the defendant is doing is to bring up a preliminary objection to say that, oh yeah, this jurisdiction, these issues, different issues, bringing preliminary objection, because it's this: if you find someone that has allegedly commits an offense, this is not arson. This is not. So I do not know the business of military in this matter. I do not see a situation where military will engage to arrest the former governor. Is it that the former governor has a group of militants that are moving around, or he has a group of his own trained soldiers that are preventing him from being arrested or being arrested? Because look, you have not seen him. Yes, you have declared him wanted. Do your job, do your investigation, but not involving or engaging military is none of military's business. So if you think you cannot do your job, then get out. Okay. Then you don't have any business. Crying foul to say you want to use military to arrest a civilian. You want to use military to arrest. We are talking about an allegation of whether it's fraud or something here, of some money fraud, and you want to engage the military. Is this sponsoring militant? Is the allegation saying that he's trying to take over the nation, or take over the government? Sorry, because I do not see anywhere written under our law that gave EFCC such power to engage the military for things. EFCC is basically an agency of government that goes after money, economic money issues, economic money fraud, whether money laundering, whether embezzlement.
All right,
all that.
Ola.
So I do not see.
All right, Ola, but then, in light of everything that has happened or is happening at the moment, what legal options does Bello have to defend himself against the corruption charges now?
All right. All you have to do, for me, there are two things. One, don't forget that Bello went to court to stop him from being arrested. And Bello went to Kogi High Court. EFCC went to Federal High Court to get an order, because even Kogi High Court had already issued an order restraining EFCC from arresting Bello or prosecuting him. Now, EFCC went further to Federal High Court, Abuja, to get an order also to arrest Bello. So two things, here, they could question the order of the court and appeal the order of the court. But then I think the appropriate thing for me to use the same law. Why don't you submit yourself to EFCC? Come out, submit yourself. Is this same court you are going to? Is the same court you are going to get your lawyer to do the needful? Let them raise the charges to you.
Okay.
If you have not done it, then your lawyer knows what to do. And if you have done it, you know what to do. So I do not see any reason why people should be running.
All right, now I actually remember something. So okay, Ola, when I asked you if him evading arrest actually makes him look guilty, you said not necessarily, but what impact do you think that his evasion of arrest, would have on the corruption charges against him?
Well, it may slow the system, because we're talking about, democracy, and we can see that is a slowing one for that matter, but it's growing. And if really want to let people know that there is nothing you can do when you are in the office or outside the office that it's for that you can get away with, the law one day will catch up with you. So I think for now, you evading, you're only putting yourself in a bigger mess. But make sure, because EFCC is not going to sleep. EFCC is not going to answer. If you like, run. If this is a crime, crime doesn't have limitation. It doesn't have limit to, the years that it's not a civil matter to say, oh, it started bad. There's nothing like started bad in criminal matter. So if you like, run. So why don't you just wait? Stay here and let justice be done. You may never even know. Why are you running? If you feel you are not guilty of the charges, of the alleged charges against you. So this may slow down, our corruption fight, because the truth is, if this happens, another person tomorrow, and if it happens and it goes scot-free and it is not being prosecuted or arrested or something, it doesn't submit himself, other people will think they can do the same thing and get away with it. And with this, we are not moving forward. I think everyone, anywhere you are, whether in an office or something, remember, whatever you do, we haunt you tomorrow if you do bad things. If you do the right thing, you should sleep without blinking an eye.
Indeed. All right, well, thank you so much, Ola, for joining us and giving us an in-depth analysis on this particular topic of discussion. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, away from that, Nigeria's Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, also known as the ICPC, has pledged to use technology in combating and ending graft in the nation's public sector. Now, this was as the chairman of the commission received the Minister of Interior in Abuja as he sought a partnership between the commission and the ministry to end public service corruption. Amadin Uyi reports.
It was a visit by the Minister of Interior, accompanied by the heads of paramilitary agencies under the ministry. The minister, while expressing concern over the effects of corruption, says that collaborating with the commission is key.
The Ministry of Interior is responsible for the enhancement of internal security. And of course, corruption is one of the biggest threats to security in Nigeria. So therefore, we don't need to move too far before we get to the point of intersection where our interests do meet. And we believe that in leveraging and collaborating with ICPC, we might just be saving our country from a lot of effort that is needed in righting the wrongs.
He adds that the partnership between both agencies can set up a template for a more transparent and accountable public service.
All over the world, the language is proactiveness. The language is prevention. The language is no more detection or correction. The world is moving, and it's moving so fast. And the language of the next generation, which we must learn as a country, is to build strong institutions and not strong men.
The chairman of the commission admitted that the work of fighting graft is cut out for the commission as it is determined to ensure that Nigeria wins.
We are trying as much as possible to see that we discharge our mandate within the confines of the law in order to ensure that we have Nigeria which is less corrupt and a country whereby people have confidence within and outside the country.
He adds that the Commission has resolved to deploy technology in its effort to rid the nation of graft.
We are going to look at closely the issue of how to use technology, both of us, in combating some of the corrupt practices, because in this new era, you can't ignore technology, because that is where the world is going now, because you cannot be everywhere.
The minister and the ICPC resolved to forge a common front in fighting corruption. This followed the minister's request for the deployment of ICPC officers to the ministry and amongst its parastatals to ensure that any act of corruption is nipped in the bud. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Thank you, Amadin, for that report. And News Central now returns after the break. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. The much-awaited National Executive Committee meeting of Nigeria's opposition People's Democratic Party has ended. The meeting, which had about 98 members in attendance, was held amid heavy security as major highways to and from the Wadata House, the national headquarters of the party, was barricaded by security operatives. Key stakeholders, including the acting national chairman of the PDP, the former vice president, governors elected on the platform of the party, principal officers of the party in both chambers of the National Assembly, former national chairman of the party, and their deputies, including regional executives of the party, were all present. Nigeria and Germany have entered into a bilateral relation that will engage and promote 5 million young men and women annually in their different areas of specialty, with hopes of growing local businesses. Now, this was made known by the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, Afiz Oluwatoyin, at the ITF headquarters in Jos Plateau State. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe was there and now reports.
Artisans across Nigeria will soon heave a sigh of relief when this collaboration would come to light between Nigeria and Germany. It looks to empower many young Nigerians who are into local production of goods and services, making them more viable and professional in their delivery to meet up with international standards in the areas of ICT, automation, skills acquisition, and other fields of endeavor.
Before they go, we will state the salary, minimum salary we want for them, minimum work benefits we want for them, health status, we want everything. We are going to state it for the country before they go. Because it is from country to country now, their mind is at rest over there, that this guy cannot misbehave, because they've packaged people and they brought to us through the government. So that is just one government, several governments like that we are talking with, and we are getting results. The chambers of commerce, we go around the country and do survey, what job do we need? What is the curriculum? They get them and forward to us in ITF, in this super program. And we do the needful and send to them. That is the first exit.
If the plague of poverty, according to Director General of ITF, holding down many young business owners and suppressing their output must be surmounted, then all hands need to be on deck for this collaboration to materialize.
You see, one problem that has bedeviled Nigeria is that Nigeria has a snake that is plaguing Nigeria. The snake of poverty, snake of joblessness, snake of insecurity, snake of every bad thing plaguing Nigeria. This snake, we all have the knife, we all have the sword to kill it. However, lining up across the snake, we face each other. It's my job to kill it. It's your job to kill it. We start fighting. We started fighting other with our sword, and the snake will be growing fatter and fatter. Instead of killing the snake, we are killing ourselves. It is time for us to collaborate together.
This training and retraining of qualified smallholder businesses will begin as soon as processes are completed for qualified artisans in different geopolitical zones in Nigeria. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba and Nyori.
Every city in Nigeria is challenged not only by infrastructure deficit, but also by the social menace of mentally ill people roaming the streets. Some states at different times used some rather poor approaches to dislodge them from the major cities. News Central's Chinwe Ugele reports.
Families abandon their loved ones with mental illnesses to constitute nuisances on the streets and roads of cities and communities all over Nigeria, with the government doing little or nothing to arrest the situation.
The mad people is very many everywhere. And sometimes if you go this side, they pursue them. That place where they come from, so now they see they pursue them. So we don't know how we go do that.
Taking care of those people is very good because it will give positive impact to the society.
In 1989, Nkechi Conwell, a missionary, established the Amudo Itumbuzo Mental Health Facility to help reduce the number of mentally challenged people roaming the streets.
Over 1,200 residents have since recovered and returned to their families. And presently we have about 60 people undergoing rehabilitation here.
This facility, however, belongs to the church, and the inmates are selected strictly by the management, making it difficult for people to send their family members there. Beyond the rehabilitation of these persons, the need to equip them with skills cannot be overlooked.
I want to make them try to learn something by themselves.
All I know is that any other skill acquisition, okay, help. Time that thing neji push ha gawa ga me ha Yoro, he has something doing. And when he can do to that thing, oneme ogaga apokwa.
It is not true that somebody who has a mental health problem cannot work. It is not true that a person cannot live in a family.
Wife of Abia State Governor Mrs. Priscilla Oti wants the challenged to fit into the society effortlessly upon release.
In the average reaction when somebody sees a mentally ill, sometimes you try to avoid them, but the fact that they can be rehabilitated and become regular members of the society again, behoves on us to do this, to support a facility.
Apart from getting the mentally challenged off the streets, stakeholders ought to ensure that they are well empowered with skills to help them navigate after rehabilitation. In Omaha News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Now, as Nigeria and the entire African continent celebrate another World Heritage Day, culture enthusiasts say that it is important to take stock of what is, what has been, and perhaps what can be, especially as it concerns Africa's most defining and treasured asset, culture. Now, News Central's Omolola Ololade tells us more in this report.
Culture, in its undiluted form, is the element that defines us as a people and influences how we interact, absorb new ideas, innovate, and even entertain. Hence, preserving it remains the highest duty the people can take on. But can the African youth, particularly Nigerians, take on the duty of preserving their cultural heritage, especially as they are known for accommodating other cultures at the risk of losing their own?
The failure in this place is due to the family. So if the family is doing their duties well, teaching their children what they should know about their culture, where they are coming from, the influence of the culture, of the Western culture, will not be much on the children.
So we as parents or as guidance, we have to really encourage the children to embrace our culture in terms of dressing, one, in terms of the food, in terms of embracing our languages and the rest.
A study by Paramount Africa revealed that 94% of Nigerians consider an accurate depiction of the country's different cultural groups and identities essential. 70% felt on-screen representation of certain groups needed to be improved, and 47% felt they were not represented enough. The statistics, however, point out the fact that African culture should be displayed proudly for the world to see and learn from. Hence the need to do more to keep reimagining and representing the continent through powerful storytelling, which can be harnessed into economic gains for the African continent.
If African governments, nations in Africa are really serious, they need to understand the power of the culture. Our culture that for the longest time has been, stolen and represented to us by the West. So until our nations take it seriously to begin to tell our stories, we will not attract the adequate investments across sectors, the adequate tourism interest, the adequate respect for our culture and our heritage.
Culture enthusiasts also emphasize the need to ensure that history and culture are taught in schools across the continent to avoid our cultural heritage from going extinct.
But I would like to encourage our educational systems throughout Africa. Let's teach our African heritage as a must-do, like a do or die. If you cannot say you've graduated and you have a PhD and you did not learn your country's history.
In a modern world where it is easier to forget the heritage of Africa's rich culture, culture enthusiasts believe there is a need for Africans to tell African stories while ensuring that these stories are well documented and preserved for generations to come. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
The news continues in West Africa, where Senegal's new president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, on Thursday visited neighboring Mauritania on his first official trip abroad since his election at the end of March. The 44-year-old leader will conduct a friendship and working visit due to last a few hours, and presidencies of both countries said, during which he is set to hold talks with his Mauritanian counterpart, Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, before a meeting of delegations from the two West African states. Senegal and Mauritania share the Greater Tortue Ahmeyim liquefied natural gas field on their maritime border, jointly developed by British energy giant BP, the American company Cosmos Energy, the Mauritanian hydrocarbons company SMH, and the Senegalese state-owned Petrosen. To South Africa now. Today, Zimbabweans are joining hands in celebration of a significant milestone in history, its 44th Independence Day. This day marks not just the end of colonial rule, but also the birth of a nation that has shown resilience, strength, and a rich culture. Zimbabweans across the globe use this day to reflect on their journey, triumphs, and challenges, and the hope for a better future for all. The South African cabinet has approved the final white paper on citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. Now, this is according to Home Affairs Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, who briefed the media on Wednesday. The final white paper makes radical proposals that the Citizenship Act, Immigration Act, and Refugees Act be amended. It also proposes that South Africa reconsiders its accession into international treaties involving refugee protection. The minister also spoke on international agreements that South Africa is party to. He said the white paper seeks to open a path for the government to exercise its rights. Now, this refers to its right to make reservations on some elements of the agreements. In East Africa now, in solemn remembrance of the 30th anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, Rwanda continues to commemorate and honor the lives that were lost in 1994. Now, during this time, friends, families, and visitors flocked to the Kigali Genocide Memorial Center in remembrance and pay tribute to commemorate this important time in history. Kwibuka 30 serves as a moment of reflection for not only the Rwandan community, but the international community at large, reaffirming a collective commitment to peace, unity, and the prevention of future atrocities. News Central's Bongani Siziba was in Kigali, Rwanda, and reports.
A solemn reminder of the darkest chapter in the country's history. The flame of remembrance will burn for 100 days, marking 3 months-long mourning of the victims of 1994 genocide. This is Kigali Genocide Center, a place where memories of honor and loss are preserved. Hundreds come here to pay tribute to their loved ones who perished during dark days. The atmosphere is somber, yet there is a sense of unity and solidarity among everyone here. Stepping inside the center, I was confronted by the stark reality of the past. Pictures of innocence, a solemn reminder of
Now let's head to business. At the IMF Springs meetings, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Olayemi Cardoso addressed concerns about declining external reserves, assuring citizens that the decrease is not due to defending the naira currency, but rather standard financial obligations like debt repayments. Joining me for more on this is Tajin Ibrahim, Head Research and Strategy, Chapel Hill, Denham. Hello, Tajin. Thank you so much for joining me at this time.
Hello, thank you for having me on your show tonight.
All right. So did you also have concerns about the reserves before the governor made these clarifications?
So I think the best way to look at the reserves is to recognize where we were as at the end of last year. As at the end of last year, the reserves were around $33 billion, and as we speak, it is around $32 billion plus. And the net sort of decrease that we could see from that standpoint is around $500 million. The accretion to the reserves that took it to around $34 billion level, was largely because of the Afrexim, loan that we got. And one thing that I believe we also have to recognize as Nigerians, as market operators, is the fact that the reserves are there to serve, the purposes of, empowering the central bank to supply to the market. And I think if we consider it further, we comfortably can conclude that, supporting the currency is a lot more beneficial than allowing it to devalue too significantly, because the impact of that would be a lot more negative on the economy. Okay. So I think in those, from those perspectives, the CBN is on track in terms of what they should be doing around currency management.
All right, now talking about, the value being significant, what do you make of his statement? Didn't sound to me like, he was categorically saying that the CBN isn't defending the naira. It was more like a play of words.
So it is not so much of a play of words, but it is more to my mind around, just supplying to the market. Let us take, a few steps back, like, 2019, for instance, when we had relative stability in the exchange rate. At that point in time, the average volume traded on a daily basis at the official market was well around, $270 million, per day. So that is what I think has returned to the market, which is an improvement in liquidity. And as at the time that we had that improvement in liquidity in 2019, the CBN was responsible for close to 30% of the inflow into the official market. As I speak, on a year-to-date basis, the CBN has supplied just a little above $500 million to the NAFEM window, which is what we consider the official market. And they have also bought around $100 million from the market. So which means the net inflow of the CBN to the market is around $400 million on a year-to-date basis. So it is not so much of, defending the currency. It is more of, playing its role in terms of underpinning supply to the market, because we also have other players in the market that supply to the market. We have the FPIs, the foreign portfolio investors. We have the foreign direct investors supplying to the market. We have the exporters also supplying to the market. And we have individuals, as well, supplying to the, official, foreign exchange market. So the CBN is just one of the players that also supplies to the foreign currency market. And I think, the CBN is just supplying to ensure that, it is not completely absent, from the market. I think that is what we are seeing.
All right, now Tajin, he also
and just before I drop on that, we should also bear in mind that it will be contradictory because the CBN has come out to say that we want a market that is operating on a willing buyer, willing seller basis, and I believe that is what is operating in the market. Higher interest rate environment has emboldened the foreign investors to bring in their money. So we are seeing remarkable increase in foreign portfolio investment inflows into the FX markets. That is what we see that is underpinning the FX reserves. And when you have the reserves to supply to the market, it is appropriate for the CBN to do so, just to ensure that it is also participating in the market.
All right, Tajin. Now, the CBN governor also talked about, having to intervene in the market when necessary, and he gave the example of BDCs, Bureau de Change. Now, but at what point will defending the Naira become totally undesirable? And I'm talking about this economically.
So economically speaking, when we have the reserves that is depleted in a way too significantly, when we talk about the reserves at around, maybe $20 billion level, we may begin to think that, the defense of the currency at that point, will be economically wrong. And, there will be need for the currency to be allowed to find its value. But I reckon that what the CBN has done this time is, slightly different in the sense that it is not a direct defense of the currency. It is more of providing an enabling environment for the currency to find its value, but at the same time supplying to the market in a manner that indicates that it is not the only supplier. I mean, the CBN in this case is not the only supplier to that market. What has been done before now is to ensure that the net open position of banks is at zero level, which means banks had to sell to the market at that point in time. When the banks were selling, it would be accretive to the FX reserves. At the same time, we have seen around 600 basis point increase in our policy rate. That has elevated yields on the treasury bills and also yields on bonds to historically high levels. That has also sort of enticed the foreign investors to bring in their money to invest in those securities. That has also underpinned the FX reserves. We have seen a significant clearance of FX backlog that we had in the country. So clearing over $4 billion or thereabout in the backlog is another area that we should look at. So it is not so much of defense; it is more of meeting the obligations that the CBN has to meet. And I think this time, with elevated interest rates, we are still going to see more inflows from the foreign portfolio investors.
Due to time constraints, we have to stop you there. But thank you so much for speaking to us on this.
Thank you for having me once again.
It's a pleasure. Now, in the world of sports, Nigeria has officially been confirmed as the host for the 2024 Davis Cup Africa Group 3, qualifying rounds. Nigeria qualified for Group 3 of the Davis Cup alongside Ghana after a good run in Kigali, Rwanda in 2023. The Nigerian quintet of David Ekpenyong, Uche Akbaroji, Wilson Igbenovia, Peter Lawal and Christopher Bulus, guided by coach Benson Ishicheli, were at the prolific best in Rwanda, where Nigeria qualified for the event. Namibia, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin and Nigeria will be competing for 2 slots in Group 2 during the qualifying round. British Olympic Association Chief Executive Andy Anson has expressed concern about the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Games on the scene after French President Emmanuel Macron said it could be moved to a stadium in the event of a security threat. Macron was of the opinion that the ceremony could be limited to the Trocadero building across the river from the Eiffel Tower or moved to the Stade de France. U.S. Olympic chiefs have also said that they were not surprised by French President Macron's comments that the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics could be moved to the National Stadium in the event of a terrorist threat. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello declared wanted by EFCC. We also told you that Senegal's new president makes first foreign visit. Finally, you heard that Zimbabwe celebrates 44th independence anniversary. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.